Otto Gerhard Ekman of rural Sweden immigrated to the United States in 1910 when he was 21 years old. He landed in Boston, Massachusetts aboard the SS Ivernia. Having descended from a long line of Swedish loggers, his surname translates literally to Oakman, he immigrated in order to broaden his economic opportunities. Otto quickly found work at a Ford Motor Company plant and financed his very own Model T, a prized possession of his that symbolized for him the new American way of progress and industriousness. In 1914, Otto married 14-year-old Alice May Shoemaker in rural Iowa. This is a photograph of Otto and Alice in 1920 with their firstborn, Carl August Ekman. Otto and Alice moved to San Diego, California, to live near Otto's brother Robert, who had immigrated to the U.S. several years before Otto. Otto and Alice didn't stay long, probably because they lacked marketable metropolitan skills, and they landed back in Page County, Iowa, where they farmed until the beginning of the Depression. In 1930, they once again relocated, this time to the burgeoning northern outpost of Winter, Wisconsin, where land was being sold on the cheap by Edward Hines Lumber Company of Chicago, now that they had reduced the old-growth white pine forests to a landscape of stumps. Otto's son, my grandpa Bob, tells a story Otto told him as a child about the move to Winter. After we lost everything in the Great Depression, your mother and I loaded up the Model T with everything we had. I filled the tank with equal parts gasoline and kerosene, and we took off straight in one direction, and wherever we landed is where we'd start fresh. Although Otto's story of how they ended up in Winter is clever, it's probably not the whole truth. Around this time, the Edward Hines Lumber Company was widely distributing brochures throughout the Midwest, advertising the area as Happyland. However, his tale does capture the sense of his family being at the mercy of greater economic forces, as well as the sense of fate and luck that framed their intra-American migrations. As the kids got older and began to take over farming duties on the homestead, Otto found employment with the WPA, or Works Progress Association. This program was a part of FDR's New Deal, and employed people like Otto to build bridges and highways. Otto's daughter, Greta, the youngest of his 13 kids, told me that Otto rarely spoke Swedish on the homestead because he identified primarily as an American. I visited the old Ekman homestead in Winter this spring, and was surprised to see how much of it still remains in 2015, 55 years after it had been abandoned. The root cellar, in particular, is still in good shape and just needs a new roof. Because trash pickup was not a thing in rural Wisconsin in the early 20th century, the dump is just behind the old house. In it I found antiques and water jugs, and what remains of Otto's coveted Model T. I was also able to locate his and Alice's graves in the Winter Cemetery, after wandering around for nearly an hour. Little of Otto's Swedish heritage has been retained in my part of the family. We know he was a Swede and a farmer, a devout evangelical Christian and a kind man, yet his legacy as a Swedish immigrant is to our family that of Americanization. Today, my family's ancestry is a mixture of too many European backgrounds to keep track of. We, like Otto, don't consider ourselves Swedish, Dutch, or German, but American.